Gizmo, shut the fuck up! We're doing a piece to camera.
Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro for the PlayStation 1 should have been an incredible game. Subjectively, I think it is, with its multiple new additions and it being a continuation of the widely popular at the time Spider-Man 2000. Yet this game was plagued with reworks and changes due to the events of September 11th. Before the game could come out, a lot of the game had to be reworked in order to avoid distressing the general public, and it's truly quite unnerving to think how many unintentional references to 9/11 was originally in this game. But what were these changes? How many changes needed to be made in such a short amount of time before the game's release? Well, in this video I will be going over every single detail that was changed for Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro for the PlayStation 1. To start off, let's go with some of the smaller changes that was made to the game before we go into the bigger reworks that was put in place. One of the first things that was changed within the game was how you die. Web swinging wasn't as majestic as it is today, and instead Spider-Man could only do 2 swings before he stops and starts falling to his death. In Spider-Man 2000 and the pre-9/11 version of the game, when you fall from swinging or jumping to your death, you could hear Spidey scream as he falls, which makes sense. But this was changed as it would have been too close to home, considering during 9/11 there was the unfortunate souls of the people who chose to jump to their deaths to avoid being burnt alive inside the World Trade Center. This was scrapped and replaced where Spider-Man would simply instead say "wonderful" in an annoyed tone of voice.
Wonderful.
That being said, I do not know for sure if this change was simply for the American release of the game, as I believe the scream can still be heard in PAL versions as well. Secondly, we've got the storyboards. Some of the storyboards in the game, you'll find some of them are completely blank. This is because the original version of the game showcased the World Trade Center, and out of respect, they completely removed it from the game, leaving the storyboards blank. As well as this, newspapers in the game had to be changed too. Anything that related to Manhattan was changed to either say the city, or it was completely removed entirely. On top of this, one of the original newspaper headlines said, "Cargo plane hijacking goes bad, Spider-Man spotted at scene," which was later replaced with "Spider-Man ambushes police." This change is completely understandable considering part of the 9/11 attacks involved hijacking planes. Following on from this, the mission that newspaper belonged to had to be altered slightly as well. In the introductory cutscene of the original version, which I'll play for you in a moment, we can see a cargo plane exploding. In the post 9/11 version, this section of the cutscene was removed. I'll play you the differences now.
Looks like my hunch was right. Now to see what these guys are up to. Everybody down! Whoa! This is getting serious. Wait a minute. That looks like the same briefcase that Shocker stole. If I can get this one, I bet I'll figure out what's going on here. Looks like my hunch was right. Now to see what these guys are up to. This is getting serious. Wait a minute. That looks like the same briefcase that Shocker stole. If I can get this one, I bet I'll figure out what's going on here.
To keep things coherent in the game, if the plane didn't explode in the cutscene, then it wouldn't make sense for there to be a plane on fire within the level itself. So they scrapped the original section and replaced it with a chain link fence. In the original, however, the remnants of the ruined plane can still be found on fire. After that, a couple of the game's mission titles had to be changed as well. The level Crash Flight was changed to Wind Tunnel, Downward Spiral was changed to the Corkscrew, Ace's High was changed to the Gauntlet, and the Top of the World was changed to the Best Laid Plans. These level names were changed due to the references of planes, things falling down, planes crashing, and the World Trade Center often being referred to as the top of the world by many. Next we have some more cutscene changes. At a few points within the game's story, a shot of the Twin Towers can be seen somewhere in the distance, either as foreshadowing or just a part of the city landscape. In the post 9/11 version, considering the events that took place, they edited parts of the cutscene to fade to black before it has a chance to show the Twin Towers. I'll show you them now so you can see the comparison between the two versions.
Let's see. What was it that thug said? Hangar 18, right? There's a Hangar 18 at the airfield. I don't need pointy ears and a cape to figure out that this is probably another heist. Let's see. What was it that thug said? Hangar 18, right? There's a Hangar 18 at the airfield. I don't need pointy ears and a cape to figure out that this is probably another heist.
One cutscene which was changed heavily was one of the final ones in the game. After Electro gains the BioNexus device in order to fully absorb electricity to become pure energy, Spider-Man asks the Doctor if she caught the license plate of the light bulb that struck him. She asks where he might have gone, and Spider-Man claims he has an idea and swings off. In the post 9/11 version, the cutscene ends there for a moment before showing Electro again ready for the final battle. However, in the original version, the cutscene continues with a circling shot of the World Trade Center, which was where the final battle of the game was meant to take place. Alongside this, Spider-Man says, "Where would you go to be on top of the world?" This was obviously removed and explains why the storyboards from earlier are blanked out, because this is what the blank storyboards were referring to. Then there's that mission itself. Originally called the Top of the World, this was later changed to the Best Laid Plans. This level, where you fight Electro as pure energy, would have taken place on top of the World Trade Center. As part of the fight, you'd swing between both towers, destroying generators to defeat Electro and win the day. This was changed for what I can imagine was for a few reasons. One being that there was the potential for players to jump off of the World Trade Center and fall to their death, hearing the blood-curdling scream from Spider-Man, which would have been insensitive and borderline traumatic.
A few moments later.
How does it feel?
I also imagine this would have caused quite a scandal should that have been allowed to happen. Following on from that, as part of the fight, an antenna ends up blowing up and crashing onto one of the towers as well. So this was another reason as to why it was reworked, due to hitting it too close to home. That, and I imagine it doesn't look too good having Spider-Man accidentally destroy part of the World Trade Center fighting Electro. It's still a part of the game, just changed slightly. Also, it would have been insensitive to have a world-ending fight on top of the site of such a tragedy, so the level was reworked. Instead of fighting and swinging between the two towers, instead you'll be fighting across one generic skyscraper. The level design was also reworked to add a bridge connecting the towers, and the textures of the windows were changed to be more generic and less like the World Trade Center's iconic windows. Now for something which is truly quite bizarre and could have caused some uproar. I'm taking this with a bit of salt, but for Spider-Man 2000 and Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro, there was a mode called Kid Mode. This mode was easier and allowed for children to be able to play the game. It offered more hints, clues, easier systems. I used it when I was a kid. During the initial build of the game on the mission Crash Flight, there is a pop-up that says, "Got to get the objects out of the way so the plane has time to stop." So all you had to do was clear the way and the plane would eventually stop. On any other difficulty, you have to clear the way and then web up the propellers in order for the plane to stop. However, in the retitled version of this level, Wind Tunnel, the pop-up which explains this wasn't included. Spidey would mention needing to clear the way, but if you're a kid and didn't understand how, they might be unable to remove the obstacles in time and cause the plane to blow up right in front of their very eyes. It's a bit of an oversight, but in hindsight it is quite funny, only because you have to wonder why it was changed in the first place. One of the final changes I want to talk about is the credits of the game, weirdly enough. In the original version of the game, Spider-Man is crawling up a wall and we get to see the developers who worked on the game in funny situations through a window while Spider-Man makes a comment. It was creative, funny, but some parts of this could have been seen as insensitive and was changed. For example, one developer is hanging from a ledge about to fall whilst the inside of his room is on fire. This was changed as it no doubt could have been related back to the people who were trapped within the Twin Towers, so instead he's inside his room, there's no fire, and he appears to be stuck. The other developer window in the original version was that of a broken window with no developer in sight. In the rework, this was changed to be a silhouette of the developer in his room, but the window is still broken. This was changed due to insinuating that he jumped to his death, something that was again too close to home in regards to the attacks. And there we have it. That was all of the changes that have been made to the game due to the tragic events of 9/11. It's a niche subject, but one I've always been interested in and have spent too long looking into, so I thought I'd break up the Red Dead videos I've done so far and mix things up. Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro is often forgotten amongst Spider-Man games, but Vicarious Visions did so much with the game and executed these changes under immense time crunch, just in order to get this game out on time. Some pre-9/11 copies are still out there in the wild, but I remember playing the updated version. With that being said, once again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.